Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Best Damn. Am I on the air? Yep. Okay, I guess I am on the air. Good evening, folks. Welcome to this edition of the Best Damn Sports Show in Franklin County for Wednesday, March 7th. I am the Nighthawk, along with our studio director, Miss Elizabeth Malone, and the usual fellows here on the panel. To my immediate right, the Duke, and on my far right, Super Dave. So I'm watching the 11 o'clock news last night, and the very competent meteorologist, Dan Dowling, telling us that 5 to 10 inches of snow to be expected in the Champlain Valley. I told my wife to make sure Thursday morning, get me up a little early so I can do some shoveling. And lo and behold, nary a flake on the ground.
For the record, they weren't predicting it early. They were saying later Wednesday. But I think they're down to 3. They seem to be down to 3 to 6.
I think I saw 1 to 3.
No, Weather Channel is 1 to 3 tonight, 1 to 3 tomorrow, I think.
Okay. But
they had the storm moved east. Hey, you can never. Why would you ever believe a weather forecast? I mean, why would you ever take a weather forecast as gospel?
Did it just track further east?
No, their line was it went a little further east.
Oh, okay.
But I can report my kid, his mother and grandmother are still on the train. I put them on the Vermonter this morning. They're going to Philly, and they've been going through like the heaviest snow of the storm. Like Trenton, they're in Trenton, New Jersey now. Philly, I guess, got about 10 inches. There was some very heavy snow down that way. But yeah, it sounds like we'll get some, but hey, who knows?
Yeah. So we'll do the tip-off tonight, pun intended, talk UVM basketball game. And, of course, we have a member on the panel here that was at the ball game last night.
Oh, is that right? You made it?
I did. It was good.
Great. Excellent. Boy, sounds like an impressive effort.
UVM
Guys are good.
It's in the America East Conference Final. Again, Saturday morning, 11 a.m. against University of Maryland of Baltimore County. And that's on ESPN2. So you can have brunch.
It's on the Deuce?
Yep.
Wow.
So you can have brunch, watch the Cats.
Wow.
And they started their trek here last Saturday in the conference playoffs. They played number 8 ranked Maine. Of course, we're ranked first. They beat them 15 points, 75 to 60. They played Tuesday night at Stony Brook, and they beat them 70 to 51 rather easily. And as I said, playing Baltimore County Saturday. So I checked back. We played them twice, of course, this year. January 6th at the Patrick Gym, 71-56, and down there, February 3rd, 81-53. So needless to say, on paper, this looks like a laugher. So Dave, tell me about wedging in at the ever so comfortable Patrick Gym last night.
Those seats are awful.
Isn't that the worst place in the world to watch sports?
I trust it was a packed house last night?
It was jam-packed.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact,
did they turn people away even?
They, where we were sitting behind the UVM bench, but pretty far up.
Yeah.
Right on the aisle.
But even what, David, you're way up to the top. Those are still perfect seats.
You can watch the action.
There's no bad seat at the Patrick Gym.
And
did you get tickets ahead of time or just at the door?
There's a story behind that.
I got lucky. My friend Rainey Millier, his nephew, Kyle Saplicki, coaches for UVM.
Oh, yeah.
So his mom had some tickets for Rainey, and I went down with Rainey and his wife and his boy. And
great.
Now I have another cousin. My cousin Jim Handy was sitting right underneath the basket, right next to Tom Brennan.
Oh, is that,
and those are the VIP seats.
Those are the Jack Nicholson seats.
Yeah.
Coach Brennan, I trust, doesn't have to pay. I trust he gets. I trust he can walk into those games.
I bet he has to pay.
He has to pay?
I bet he has to pay, but I bet he probably gives
for him.
The guys that get those good seats, I'm sure they pay for them. Yeah. I don't think they're gratis.
You know, I would like to guess how much they pay for those tickets. Probably $100, maybe.
What were your ticket? Was there a dollar sign?
I didn't.
What do you think, like $10 or so?
Well, normally regular season down there is
$5?
$12 for a regular season game. Well, the hockey is, depending where you sit, I'm paying $24.
I know. I didn't realize basketball was
the basketball, I bet it'll go up after this year.
Yeah.
Interesting.
What I noticed is that UVM is so deep. Yes. And they've got so many good players. And to think that Lamb, who was Player of the Year last year,
Rookie of the year.
Rookie of the year.
Rookie of the year.
Trey Bell Haynes was Player of the Year. Second straight.
That Trey Bell Haynes is really good.
Yes, he is.
He is super quick. That Lamb is just coming off the bench and only playing a few minutes game.
Right. He just
Right.
came off injury about a week, 2.
He looks a little rusty, but the guy that impressed me the most was Urquhart. Big, strong guy, and he can shoot the threes, made his foul shots, had a couple of Kevin McHale-like moves
Really?
underneath. Stony Brook didn't have any thoroughbreds. They had one guy, they had a point guard, number 10, who was really good. Looked like a gym rat. He was very quick, but UVM is good. 14 for us. I think it's Ward.
Is it Cam Ward?
He made some big
Cam
threes.
Ward.
Yep.
You know what stinks
Good team.
though
Good team.
is the guys can't get in a flow because they had a timeout every 4 minutes,
Oh, is that right?
and it just
These
stops.
were media timeouts?
Oh yeah.
Really?
It just stops the action just when you feel like you're getting it going.
Because that happens, obviously, March Madness is timeouts every 4
Oh,
minutes.
it's
or so, right?
really, really bad.
Not to mention the
It's-
horror shows at the end of the games.
Yeah.
And the one guy that Stony Brook had, who was kind of like the punching bag for all of the fans. Stony Brook had this guy who's almost 7 foot, and he looked like, all I could think of is like Lurch on.
Yeah. Adams family.
And anyway,
Munster,
he was from
Munster.
Slovakia,
Huh.
and he was a rough and tumble guy, and he was big, but he was a fouler. He fouled out about. He only played maybe 15 minutes and fouled out, and but Stony Brook just didn't have.
Yeah.
UVM is just
Well, David,
really
you-
good.
if
Their
you-
defense is super
You said the one word to describe UVM basketball: deep.
deep.
Their
deep.
second five is almost as good as their.
Yes.
And they've always have had a deep team. And the interesting thing here, as I
Huck, where are they in power ratings? Like 40 to 50, something like 40,
know,
somewhere around there?
I was just thinking that
We're
while
getting an
David was
occasional
talking.
vote or two in
I meant to
top
check that, and I
25.
forgot, and I meant to check the power rating.
Probably
of the
40, probably
conference.
30s, probably 30s, about 40.
The interesting thing, of course, UVM lost their first conference game in a couple years
Yeah.
against Hartford. Well, Hartford, lo and behold, loses the other night. So, and again, I can only go off past records here. This should be a 15-point victory, and what occasionally will happen
Should be.
if
the word
if this
advisedly.
game's a slaughter, okay, ESPN will cut out and go to another game.
Oh, yeah.
So
The UVM had a hard time getting into an offensive
they're a slow
flow.
starting team. That's
They had a tough time getting going, but Trey Bell would cut, and then he would bounce pass to maybe is 25 Urquhart or is 35 Urquhart? I
I
can't.
think
Not
25.
a numbers guy.
And that play, those two were playing just like a little two-man game.
Trey Bell Haynes will not be drafted, but my guess is he'll be
End up in
invited
Europe
to
or something?
NBA camp and probably.
He's really quick.
Yeah.
But you don't see him yet. Can't picture him in the NBA.
I can see it occurring for the simple reasons when a team like the Boston
cheap,
Celtics
just to pay somebody
have 3
cheap.
guys on their team in excess of $20 million, and 2 of them closer to $30 million. You need guys at the end of the bench making nothing.
Yeah.
And he could end up in that type of scenario.
Yeah.
If not, as you mentioned, he could play easily in Europe.
Or in
So-
D-League or.
So my question is, and I'm not assuming, I know they'll easily get past Baltimore. What typically the America East, kind of a laughed upon conference, but methinks that Vermont could be a 13th seed here.
Well, hey, they're going to have, if they win, they'll have 28 wins.
Yeah, I think
Pretty good.
13, 12 might be pushing it, but 13
Yeah.
sounds
They
like
got
it
a
would
pretty
be
strong conference record. They've held their own against other good teams. They played well last year.
They almost beat Kentucky.
They should have beaten Kentucky early in the
They
year.
certainly could have tied them late.
And they've beaten some
Not
other
that Kentucky's got their usual
mid-major
great team,
teams.
but still.
Yeah.
Now, an interesting thing, the guy from Stony Brook said that even if UVM loses in the final, they ought to get at large.
You think?
They maybe ought to, but I think you could make that case. I just
Duke, refresh my
wouldn't hold
memory.
my breath.
I wouldn't. I think they got to get in to get in.
Yeah, I think so.
Don't they pick 62 teams, and don't they have 4 teams doing a play down? Or
68 teams.
68.
It used to be 64. Then they had the 2 play-in games in Dayton now. So 68 teams we're talking.
68 teams, yeah.
And didn't UVM play in one of those play-in games?
They did, and they beat somebody like in New
to get into the
Mexico.
Right,
to get
and then
into
they
that.
got
Right. And I don't know if I consider that making the NCAA tournament. I think,
Okay.
to me, it's more of a game to be
Take
invited
it, yeah, semantics kind of.
to it. Yeah,
But 68 teams get picked.
yeah.
well.
And of course, all the conference finals are this Saturday. And
Most of them, Big Ten actually was last weekend.
Oh,
With
they're done,
Michigan. Michigan won Big Ten.
Well, it
but
all
most of them-
depends if you've got any of the really good teams that got knocked out. And so if you got some team that's 15th in the country and they didn't get the automatic seed, you know they're going to get in. UVM would really, of course, with 68 teams, you're going to get, if they're in the top 40, you'd think they would get
I
picked.
think what hurts teams like UVM is in the conferences, if the best team in the conference gets knocked off by a middling, a mediocre team that ends up getting the automatic bid. That's
Yeah.
what kills your UVMs of the world.
I failed. I wanted to do the power rankings of the conferences in NCAA Division I. I forgot all about it, and that's a thumbs down for UVM because typically, what is there, about 34 conferences in
like that. And
typically UVM's in the
East is
high 20s or
At
America
best, maybe.
East.
Yeah, I think, boy, chances are they need to win Saturday to get
That's
in.
what I would think. So,
Chances are.
But they're good.
yeah.
I actually caught some of the ACC. I caught a little hoops this afternoon. Actually, a good game. BC's actually playing some decent ball. They were way ahead of NC State. State came back late, but BC won, so BC plays for
Now, did
another
Duke
day.
get a first round bye?
Duke's got 2 byes.
Two
They're
byes, yeah.
second seeded, so they'll finally play tomorrow.
So they're right into the semis, correct?
They're right into the quarters.
Into the quarters. okay.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Okay.
The championship game Saturday.
And of course,
Quarters.
if Duke loses third, it means nothing.
Yeah.
This conference means.
I mean, it
back in the
might-
day when it was 32 teams, it meant
I
something.
mean, if they lose tomorrow, it might. They're probably They're probably a second seed now, a regional second seed. Might knock them down to a third, maybe at worst.
See, that's my hope, David. Is Duke is a third-ranked team and we're 13th. I would love to play Duke just for the hell of it.
I don't think you want to play Duke.
Oh, I know Duke.
But
right.
for the record, let me quickly say Duke's track record. Of course, they won the championship in 2015. They also lost to Mercer in a first-round game.
Where's Mercer, Duke?
Macon, Georgia.
Okay.
They also lost to, was it Lehigh a few years ago?
I think
They've
so.
had a couple of terrible losses in first-round games.
Yeah. I mean, the reality, of course, I remember we beat Syracuse 11 years ago. The reality of UVM winning anything in the end is pretty remote.
Well, the
Remote,
system,
even last year, Purdue, they gave Purdue a pretty
the
decent
system
game.
is stacked.
Yeah.
The system is lined right
Big-
up so
big
that the big
conferences
power
get so much
conferences
advantage.
get all the home, not the home ice, but the home field advantage. They get all the right matchups. They'll make UVM fly to Seattle, Washington, and have them play at 3 a.m. You know, they don't get any breaks.
Yeah.
See, they did get a pretty good break in 06 when they got to play Syracuse and Worcester.
And Worcester?
Because that's not a
Yeah,
further
it's not
road
bad.
trip than what they usually would do anyway.
Yeah.
But you take last year, they got a raw deal. But
And where they near Purdue? I mean, in the
Yeah.
Midwest somewhere.
David, didn't
wasn't it Milwaukee
a few
could
years
be.
ago, 2-3 years ago, they got snowed in?
and Denver, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. And
Yep,
they had
snow was
spent
an
the night
issue a
in the
couple of years
airport.
ago. Yeah, something like that.
So it's hard to believe. I mean, a week from tomorrow, we'll be playing the NCAA tournament. That's crazy. So if you're looking for a sign of spring, there's another
Well,
sign.
how about daylight savings time, 2 a.m. Sunday?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Maybe not exactly.
Right.
Well, I mean, a sign of
Because
spring timing-wise.
right around this point, I bet you'll know the answer. We should be hitting 7 o'clock sunset next
We're
week.
close to, we're probably about 5:50 today or so,
Yeah.
soon to be. Yeah, it'll be,
That's pretty
with
good.
DST, it'll be very close to 7.
So, David, Kevin Sneddon certainly went out and earned his 3-year extension.
Yeah.
David, to every person I talk to, the typical answer is, how in the hell did he, how did that happen? So they play Amherst. That has been a weak sister.
UMass would be a
UMass
better way to
Amherst.
describe them.
They've never had a good hockey program as long as the caveman's been around. So we lose to them Thursday night, 3-2 in OT. We beat them in OT Friday night. So we're all set for a Thursday or
Right.
Sunday 3 o'clock game. Should be a great game.
Stinker game, right?
Don't show up,
5-1.
lose 5-1. What's up with that?
But the first game, so that was a killer. Didn't they get some crazy penalties? They had a
The first game they had 2-0
in that
That's
game.
That's the game that killed them. I guess give them some credit for coming back. It was Thursday, Friday, Sunday, coming back Friday, but yeah, Sunday sounds like not a good effort.
Yeah, and of course, at this time next year is when the construction will begin for the new basketball arena and the refurbishment of Patrick Gym.
So there's no doubt in you guys'
I've
mind
heard-
that's happening.
I've heard nothing.
Well, they
believe it when I
they've
see it. I hope you're right,
The money
obviously.
has been donated.
When you say the money, I mean
No, the money has been donated to do the
site work.
the site work, not the site digging work, but to do all of the
engineering?
engineering to see that what can be done.
What's the price tag? Are we talking about 60
Wasn't it
mil?
80?
About $80 million.
80 mil?
And of course, if you've ever done any construction, $80 million means $100 million.
Right, maybe kick that up to 100.
Because you know what they'll say? Inflation. Well, inflation might have gone up 0.75%. So also, I went down to Northfield, Norwich again this past Saturday,
Right.
and saw Hobart, the number 8th ranked team in the country. Norwich was ranked 11th, and I found out where Hobart is.
Isn't it New York?
It is, in fact, in New York on the Finger Lakes, Geneva.
Oh, is that right?
Oh, sure.
I might have
And-
had it on the Hudson.
Boy,
so
I
was
thought
off
I'd
a
made
little
a
bit.
copy. Their student population is about
1,500.
2,600
26?
So they're about the same size
people.
as Norwich.
and I don't know what I did with that thing, but they showed their acceptance rate there, and I don't remember. It was maybe 60, something like that. Well, I remember our conversation last week about Castleton University, about people aren't applying there. They're $1.5 million in the red, and they have to cut staff. blah,
They've
blah.
got a ton of company.
So I checked their acceptance percentage. This was as of 2015, 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Not with the financial issues. It was 91.6%.
Yeah. Is that-
Basically,
really?
if you can write your name and chew gum, we'll
that
take
right?
you. And that, again, that was 3 years ago. Today, I guarantee you put
higher.
an application in there and you're in.
Interesting. Wow.
So,
Boy, classic. Just rich get richer, poor get poorer. with
Oh,
colleges.
the more exclusive.
David,
they-
I was talking to my wife, though. We won't get into this tangent this week about what you said, but you best be darn sure when you go to college, you get a major that you're going to get a good job, good paying job.
Yes.
The days
Not a
of
bad
Dave
idea.
Handy, class of '78, getting a poli-sci
History degree.
or an English literature. Those days are long gone. And I was telling my wife, David really advocates going to a vocational school, becoming an expert at something.
Funny you mentioned that. I had an earlier show, St. Albans Today, with newly elected Mayor Tim Smith, and of course Tim, the longtime exec director of Franklin County Industrial Development Corp. But we got into some of the issues that he deals with, and he's just, as you would guess, just so concerned about finding enough, people to take
it's
some,
awful.
to take jobs and stuff. And I said, boy, maybe can we convince some of these kids to get some of the good old blue collar jobs like plumbers, electricians? Talk about good paying jobs. But yeah, we got into that issue a bit. But that's his biggest issue he's dealing with, as you can easily imagine.
Well,
David, I don't want to play the when we were kids card again that I seem to overplay too much. However, David, when we were kids, didn't it seem like every fourth guy in high school was a grease monkey and could strip down a car and put it back together in about 2 hours? You know.
well, it's not. The reasoning isn't. People don't want. If you're a working man, my dad always used to say, if that man,
All right,
he's not
man.
he's a working man. If you're a working man, you always want your kids to have an easier life, because you really actually got to work. It's not like me where all I do is talk. But Corey Parent was the speaker this week at Rotary.
Oh, is that right?
And the state of Vermont is really, really going to be in bad shape, because our budget keeps going up and our ability to tax the people that are left keeps getting, we've peaked at how much tax money we can get. Because one of the things that the Vermont's done is they've made the taxes, and they piggyback on the federal income tax, plus they have their own special other taxes and estate taxes and things like that the feds don't have, is that all the really rich guys, I mean, the guys that are making over $1 million, $2 million, the guys with a $10, $20, $30 million estates, $100 million estates, you know what they're doing? They're all moving to Florida or to Texas or to South Carolina. Well,
I've got a friend who's super, super, super rich. He makes sure he spends his 6 months in one day down in Florida.
Absolutely.
And of course, there's no state income tax down there.
No,
But David,
there's no state sales tax.
so
Is there no income tax?
no income tax.
Take it back. Is there a sales
There's
tax and
about
no
5, 6 states.
oh,
in the country.
they got other taxes.
But the property
Sorry,
tax,
no income tax.
I heard, is
No, it's
really
not.
expensive. But David, do you know what's
I don't
wrong
think
with the
so.
state? And I would think your family is a classic example. Your kids are really smart. Your last one's a senior, right, at BFA?
Yes.
Be going off to college. One stayed here in Vermont,
and 3 are out of state.
and 3 who are just smart guys making good money. They're out of state, and that is the brain drain factor that everybody always
Would
talks
they
about.
ideally, if they could get great jobs in Vermont, would they ideally like to?
Oh, we got a
have
caller.
a call.
Got a call.
We got a caller.
Alrighty, here we go. Get that bat off your shoulder and get those mud out of the cleats, because you're the first batter tonight on the best damn sports show in Franklin County.
Well, I'm not going to feel too bad about opening with politics, because I thought this was the sports show. But anyway,
Were we
town
talking
meeting.
politics?
Richard, I was watching last night with you and the Messenger folks, and trying to get through, and I didn't realize that it was all kind of predisposed beforehand who was going to call, and that's fine.
Yeah, we don't. Yeah, it's
Right,
all
right. But I wanted to
callers.
share a couple of anecdotal remembrances of town meetings past, and when Mr. Canseo from Sheldon?
Yeah,
Michelle Consejo,
Yes.
former
When he
state,
called,
former state rep.
in my young journalistic career, I want to talk about Sheldon. You probably know where I'm headed with this, if you remember. It was the most important journalistic story that I ever got involved in personally, because I wrote it right through to the end.
You're talking
It
Sheldon?
was
Boy, nothing's
Tom
coming to mind.
Phillips was moderator, and he was a select board member in the town of Sheldon back in the 70s. Remember that name, Richard, at all?
I'm sorry, what name, Len?
Tom Phillips.
Boy, doesn't a quick glance. doesn't
Maybe
mean
you
much.
weren't here yet. When did you get on board here?
November 75.
Well, it might have been before you by just a bit, but not much. But anyway, this is a big deal. This was democracy in action. Tom Phillips, I knew him. I had dealt with him through the media, and decent guy. But it was the Old Boy Network. And as I said, he was a select board member in Sheldon, and he was the moderator. And there was this new family that moved into town, and this lady ran against him. And she was someone really that, nobody really knew, but she put up a good campaign. And this was, the vote was right in the town hall. And she won the first ballot, by 1 or 2 votes. And Tom Phillips, the moderator, declared that first ballot kind of null and void because there was some discrepancy with the ballots.
Really? No, that I have zero memory of that.
Oh, yeah, I remember this very well because I was really on this one.
Wow.
And so we need to revote this. And in the meantime, he gets a few of his friends to call up
Wow.
a few more Tom Phillips supporters. So they revote, and lo and behold, Tom Phillips wins the second go-round by a few votes. And, God, I wish I could remember her name. Nice lady, lived right on 105, and my memory just isn't good enough. Well, she wasn't going to stand still for this. She went to court.
Really?
She said, I don't have to win an election twice, basically. I only got to win it once. And the court ruled in her favor.
Really?
And the good old boy, Tom Phillips, who'd been involved with Sheldon politics forever, was ousted.
Wow.
And that was I remember that so vividly. As a young journalist in my 20s, I never got wrapped around a story more deeply than that one, because that was democracy that was thwarted the first time by the good old boy network.
Yeah, actually, I think that was before. I have zero memory of that. I can only assume was just before me.
Great. And my second anecdotal story about town meetings, I was going to make a point last night if I had called, was town meeting day. Well, I grew up in Berkshire, and Berkshire Center was where town meeting day was. And right across from the town hall was Max Jolly's store. And town meeting day back in the 58, 59 in Berkshire, it was a festive occasion. It was second only to the Broome Fair in terms of really being in attendance. Your kids loved it. Yeah. We went there. It was just festive. There was food to eat in the town hall, and you could go across the street and buy candy at Jolly's store. And in my macabre analogy is, it was akin to a public hanging in the mid-19th century in America. Everybody just came. It was festive. And the big argument back then was always road commissioner. That was the big fight back then. It wasn't the schools. It was road commissioner, potholes and things, and that's my recollection back from the late 50s. And town meeting, as I said, as a kid, I have fond memories of in Berkshire Center. You got to go, and you got to go across the street and get candy from Max Jolly's store. And you know the town clerk is still in that building, basically, in Berkshire Center. And right across the street from it now, I think it's kind of like it's an old store that's in a historical type situation. Do you know, anybody know what I'm talking about here?
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I forget what they name it now, but the guy's name was Max Jolly. But a couple of little anecdotal town meeting stories. Sports-wise, the Giants, how good is this linebacker, Hawk, we picked up today from the Rams?
Better than average.
All-pro? No, yes?
He's more of he's a small linebacker, good speed, can cover receivers. The issue with the Giants, Leonard, is as better as our offensive line was, which could have been the worst in all of football, I can sit here with a straight face and probably say our linebacking core was probably the worst in football. So this was a need trade. They didn't give up much. He came
2
out
of 4.
He came out of Alabama, and he had some baggage, but he played pretty well with the Rams. But Wade Phillips went to a 3-4 defense, and that wasn't really his forte in that. He's 6'2", Len. He's only 235 pounds, 26.
So he must be quick.
He's very quick. So we gave up...
a 2 and a 4, I believe.
Yeah, we got Ogletree in a 7th-round pick for next year for this year's 4th and 6th-round pick.
No, not this year. This year's?
Yep. We'll give him the 2018 4th and 6th-round pick.
Which picks again?
4th and 6th.
Oh, okay, they're this year's 4th.
Right, and the Rams will get their 2019 7th-round pick, which is basically nobody.
Yeah.
Well, as I said here weeks ago, I still maintain if we're able to get the running back from Penn State at number 2, if he's there, we're taking it.
Well, Leonard,
You can almost go to the bank on that.
yeah, I will say you were correct that their whole draft strategy was all on the shoulders of Davis Webb. And it appears to me, and Webb has been working out every day in Jersey at the ballpark.
Got a
And,
big arm. Got a big arm, the kid.
and their new GM has been watching a ton of tape on him, and I think they're satisfied with him. The truth be told, the quarterbacks coming out of this year's draft, they're good, but
They're not Hall of Famers.
But they're not great. There's no franchise quarterback
I
coming
agree
out.
with you. I agree with you. You know, my problem, my biggest fear is because the Browns got the 1st and 4th picks. Now, if the Browns are smart,
They're going to take.
they're going to take the running back first,
And
they're going to take a quarterback at 4.
that's what I think
That's my biggest fear.
could happen, but I'm still reading a lot of mock drafts where they're leaning.
What's your worthless?
First-
Quite frankly, let's say right here and now, Nighthawk on the best damn sports show in Franklin County, mock drafts are worthless.
Well,
Anybody want to disagree with that?
I sure don't. Why people pay so much attention to drafts blows my
They're
mind.
bull crap.
I spend.
Mock drafts are bull crap.
I kind of agree with you, Leonard.
I agree. No disagreement here.
I think what the Giants may have to do is make a trade with Cleveland.
Yeah, to move up.
There's
get-
talk that they may go from 2 to 1. However, to me, Cleveland's best strategy is what Leonard said. Take Barkley. They said he had the best combine
Of any player.
of any player that's ever stepped foot in Indianapolis. This guy is a superhuman, and Leonard.
And he's a character guy.
Right.
He is the top of the line.
I saw him
character guy
in
too.
an interview. Nicest guy. But the second best player in the draft is Quentin Nelson, the guard out of Notre Dame. Now,
Well, I thought it was the defensive end Chubb.
Bradley Chubb out of North Carolina State is also very good. He is projected in my mock draft to go 3rd to
Oh,
Indianapolis.
this is your
Colts.
mock draft.
Well, I create my own draft too.
Oh, I see. Well, I put that right up there with all the others then.
Well, thank you, Leonard. Now, if Barkley does in fact go first, then I don't want to risk trading down to lose Nelson. I mentioned on the show last week, and I guess you might have been on vacation last week, Leonard. Were you gone last week?
No. I just,
But-
I think I went to bed early.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't feel well or something.
Yeah, what I read about Quentin Nelson is he's the best guard coming out of college in 45 years since John Hanna came out of Alabama and went on to a Hall of Fame career with the then Boston Patriots.
Well, I thought for some reason I read the story quickly today on that linebacker from the Rams. I thought it was they were giving up picks in the 19 draft, but it's a 4 and a 6 this year.
This year, and we're getting their 7th pick
They're 7
in 19.
So what that tells me, if Barkley's off the board after the first pick, they're going to trade down and they're going to pick up some more picks. That's the way I look at it. If they've given up 2 picks in this draft, and every pick they've got is right at the top of the board in each round, just about, only 2 down. So that's my prediction. If they're not able to get the running back at number 2, if the Browns drafted number 1, the Giants are going to deal. They're going to pick up 2 picks that they lost today. And that's the way I look at it.
But Len, it's only a 4th and a 6th. Now,
Well, I don't care, but it's a high pick.
Yeah, actually,
in
you're
each
right
round.
because the Giants being the worst
well,
team.
let's do the math. 32 teams times 4 would be 128. So the 4th pick's the 129th best player out of college. Now, Leonard, as in any trade in sports, modern sports now, money has everything to do with it. Rams has signed Ogletree to a 4-year, $42 million contract extension this past October. So the Giants are on the hook for $33 million.
Right.
Right
Well,
now.
they must think highly of it.
Yeah, well, again, the only linebacker coming back who's not a free agent is B.J. Goodson. So we're, at the very least, extremely thin at the linebacker position.
Well, if they're going to pay him that kind of money, they only had $20 million of cap money. Of course, I think they're going to cut
they're
quite
letting
a few
a lot
guys.
of people
They're
go.
going to be right. The NFL New Year, Happy New Year, is next Wednesday, March 14th. That is the start of the NFL New Year, and then I think a couple days later, free agency begins.
Now, when is the draft? Next week?
April
last
something.
weekend of April.
Ways away.
Long ways to
okay.
go. Long ways to go.
Okay.
When I allude to Quentin Nelson,
Temper your excitement
This
for a
is a
while.
very thin free agency. Now, Nate Soldier is rated the number 1 lineman from the Patriots left tackle. He's slightly above average. Now, I've got it through the grapevine that the Giants have a deal with Andrew Norwell, pretty good guard from the Carolina Panthers.
Yes, that's who I read they were going to go.
Knows David Gettleman. He was the GM.
He really likes him.
That he's going to be signed. And I would like to, well, let me ask you this, Leonard. Your choice.
Richburg and Pugh
is gone,
are not
and
going
Pugh
to
are
be signed.
gone.
No, that's where the Giants are going to pick up some money to play with.
Yeah.
They're going to dump so many of these guys overboard.
Yep.
They're going to have money to play with, and they may draft 1 or 2 offensive linemen, but they're going to be in the free agent mix here for 1 or 2 for sure.
So, Leonard, I'm in a quandary here. Would I rather have Quentin Nelson or Shaquem Barkley? Now, Barkley will probably play for whatever the rookie contract, 4 or 5 years. We'll wear the hell out of him and let him go after that. But you get a guy like Quentin Nelson, we're going to have him for 12 years, and he should be a all-pro potential Hall of Fame player. As I say here, I'd rather have Nelson than Barkley.
Well,
I'll tell you what, Barkley he's the total package.
He is.
I mean, he's a running back. They said that hasn't come. Adrian Peterson is who they like him into.
Yep.
They haven't seen anybody like that
Nope,
in 25 years.
you're right.
The guy can catch the ball. His hands are better than Beckham's.
Yep.
the man's got soft hands.
Yeah.
He can run wide receiver routes out of the backfield. I mean, he can block. I mean, this is the man I want.
Yeah.
We'll get offensive linemen, but this is the guy I want.
Yeah, the bottom.
Just to change the subject real quick, because I don't want to stay on the air all night. The biggest sports event, obviously, of the past 5-6 days is what?
Phil Mickelson.
Mr.
Phil Mickelson, absolutely. Who watched it, by the way?
I did.
Boy, you're bringing up a bitter subject. Here's my story. I usually watch the replay on the Golf Channel Sunday night of the last round. I was falling in and out of sleep. I woke up at about maybe 11:30, quarter of 12. What do I wake up to? Justin Thomas eagling 18.
Right.
To give him at that moment a two-shot
Two-stroke
lead.
lead.
Mickelson, meanwhile, on
He had 5 holes left.
It looked like Mickelson was maybe going to get a bogey. I'm going 2-shot lead. I'm going to bed. So I blew. I wake up and Mickelson wins it. Yeah. Great job.
Oh, yeah.
Great effort.
Well, Mike Coleman and I were texting back and forth almost every hole. And he says after the eagle, of course, I won't even tell you what I texted him after the eagle. I this is a little BS here is what I call that shot. And I said, the poor guy is snake bit. And then I said, but he's got 5 holes left, Phil. And he's putting pretty well. And he almost, typical Phil Mickelson. David, I guess, is the only one that watched it, right?
I did.
The 11th hole was probably the key hole because he could have lost the whole tournament right there.
I did see that shot.
He tries to hit a second shot on a par 5, a hook shot over a tree onto the green, hits the tree and goes into a thicket, like to the right, let's say, of the 17th fairway at Champlain.
Yes.
He has to walk into the thicket, into the woods.
I didn't see that.
And pitch it out, and he hits the spectator. Instead of ending up in the fairway, he hits the spectator.
Wow.
Then he's got these 2 trees, I don't know, probably no more than 15 feet wide, 20 feet wide, or else he can go to the left of the trees, chip up onto the green, and make a safe bogey. Oh, not Phil. Phil takes it right through the hole, misses the tree by probably an inch, puts it on the green, and misses about a 15-foot for a par, and makes a bogey. But if he'd have hit that tree on that 4th shot, it's over. He probably makes 8 on the hole.
I didn't see that
it's
shot.
over, and the guy can play so dumb at times.
Yeah.
And but he was Oh, I mean, he made some great putts that never went in on Sunday, and including that birdie putt on the first playoff hole. I says, "Oh, the poor guy." And but I mean, that putt that Thomas attempted on the first playoff hole was just, I don't know if he was trying to give Phil the tournament or what.
Well, we were thinking that maybe he didn't really give a crap that much.
Yeah, well, I mean, he was happy for Phil, as the entire golf world should be.
Yeah.
Because I mean, here's the senior guy. I mean, right now, pretty much, and at 47, the guy is really on a roll.
No, he's playing great. Yeah.
He's finished 6th, 4th, 2nd, and he's won one in his last 5 tournaments.
Yeah,
Leonard,
unreal.
the guy that's on a roll is Thomas.
Oh, I know he
Thomas
is.
isn't-
Thomas has got the whole game.
Mickelson is as hot as he is in 2018.
But the shot I saw, I guess it was a hole or two later when I woke up. Mickelson's in the trees or in the rough.
Yeah.
That's number 11, must be.
Was that? But
No,
but
no, it
the
was like
shot I
14
saw
or
was.
something.
They said, well, he must see some opening. I didn't see any
He
opening.
went right over the trees.
Went right over, and that's when I went upstairs because he landed next to the green, but it looked like he still might not even get a par there.
And
And
he
then I
did.
see Thomas get an eagle. I said, it's over.
Oh, yeah, that was earlier than his 11th hole.
That was
I
earlier?
think.
Okay.
Yeah, but I
Mickelson,
mean, no, I just felt good for him, and
Yeah.
it's good for golf. And speaking of golf, there's a controversy between the USGA and the Royal and Ancient in England and the PGA, because just like the baseball being juiced,
putters?
there's controversy now about the golf ball being
really?
juiced.
Really?
And I don't know if you were reading about that today.
No, that means nothing.
Yeah, the USGA and the R&A are a bit of the opinion that, the players are hitting it too long. It's taking a lot of skill out of the game. And I tend to agree, quite frankly.
Well,
I tend to agree. I mean, and I know the guys are a lot more fit. They work out a lot, and that's part of Mickelson's success. He works out twice a day this year. That's new in his regimen. But, it begs compared to 2003 versus now, how far they're hitting it, given the ball, the new equipment, I mean, it's making some of these golf courses irrelevant for so many players
No, it's
Leonard,
kind of like
who are very skilled, but they just can't hit it 340 off the tee.
No, it's kind of like tennis. Just, guys, your top males serving it at whatever, 150 miles. Well, you wonder why I like to watch women's tennis.
Leonard, what I've been following that issue, and of course, Jack Nicklaus has been a proponent of standardizing the golf ball for a long time. But then I was listening to, it was maybe Hank Haney or somebody else on the Golf Channel, and they said, which I agree with completely, he said, if you take the mileage out of the golf ball, the only guys that'll win will be the big hitters. He said what they need to do with the golf ball is not make it shorter, make it so that it spins more. Because the problem you got is the long hitters now, not only do they hit it long, but they can control it. And if the ball were more volatile, your DJs and Finau and all the guys that are hitting it 330, the ball and narrow the fairways up a little bit, that might...
So, David, the question is, how do you make the ball more volatile?
Oh, they can.
Oh, well, come on.
Smaller.
The baseball has certainly been doctored.
Oh, the golf ball today is nowhere near the same. But they were saying...
Apparently, I'm shopping at the wrong sporting goods store because my ball's not going in.
They're saying that a sure guy, if the ball were deader than it is now, sure guy wouldn't stand a chance, and the only guys that'll win. Mm-hmm. Because what they need to do is take the driver out of some of these guys' hands. You remember, I think it was one of the playoffs last year where Dustin Johnson hit that ball. Spieth hit one. Spieth hit one over the water, and he had 180 yards to the green. Johnson hit it and he had 80 yards to the green.
Wow.
And Johnson, all he needed was a wedge, and when he hit it on there, is stuck right on. They can tweak the courses a little bit, narrow the fairways up so that the short guys aren't penalized.
Well, what made that tournament in Mexico City actually more competitive was the altitude.
Yes.
Because a lot of the short guys, all of a sudden, they weren't hitting it as long as the long guys, but they were hitting it as long as the long guys do at sea level.
Yes, yes.
And it brought a lot more people into play. That's what made that such a good tournament, because a lot of even Phil drove a 400-yard green, I believe on Saturday. A 400-yard hole, he drove it. And, with the roll, and, that's not going to happen at sea level, obviously.
No.
So that really kept him in good stead, was the fact that he was pretty long. But poor Phil, I don't know how good that guy could be if he was a good driver of the ball. I mean, he's got a great... If he could swing that driver as connected and tight as he does his wedges, like, my God, I don't know how many tournaments he would have won by now. I don't know how come he's never mastered the driver. It's such a loose swing. His balance is not good. Put a 3-wood in his hand, it's completely different. He can hit fairways with 3-woods, but for whatever reason, the driver's always been one of his weakest clubs in the bag, and he's still got 43 wins.
Well, and he's driving it better than he has in a long time.
Right, but still, you look at the guy swinging a driver, every time he pulls it out, if you're a fan of his, oh my God. I mean, he's balanced. I mean, when he finishes, but when he hits a wedge, it's so tight and connected, and all his other clubs, for that matter. It's just the driver that, for whatever reason, God, he's way beyond parallel.
Well, one of the other things they were saying on the Golf Channel the other day was they said, never in the history of golf have you seen a guy who's a better putter at 47 than he was at 37. Because that was the other thing that used to hurt Phil. Phil wasn't that good a putter. He missed a lot of short putts years ago.
Oh, especially when they counted.
Yeah, but now he made every putt he had to make. He made a lot of par savers, and his putting is very good right now.
Oh, I totally agree. I mean, he made a ton of 6-foot par putts.
Yes, tough.
I mean, to save face, they're coming in at a lot of the holes, and he still, arguably may have the best short game. Well, they were talking about it. Even one commentator says that even at his prime, I think he's better than Tiger with a short game.
Oh, absolutely.
And but anyway. Having said all that, we're getting closer to opening day, and anything in baseball, Hawk, catch your eye at this particular point in time, other than the fact that there's so many free agents out there that haven't signed?
That is the news, Leonard, is every day I get on the internet knowing that Jake Arrieta is going to be signing with somebody, and nothing. Not only is he not signed, there's no rumors out there where he's going to go. Lance Lynn, who I like a lot, is still out there, and Alex Corn on the Cob is still out there.
And guess
so
what?
Machado.
You probably saw this. Guess what it cost the Texas Rangers to sign a formerly pretty good pitcher?
Tim Lincecum signed for $1 million.
Well, I would do that in a second.
Yeah.
$1 million?
Yeah.
Well, he's been out though. Lincecum's really hit rock bottom.
But Leonard,
but you never know.
The season starts in about 2 weeks, 2 days. And
the 29th, I think.
Yeah,
right?
these guys aren't in camp. They're not.
If you sign them, you aren't even going to get them till the 1st of May. They need time to get their arms strengthened.
Leonard, I got a question for you. You asked us what the big sports story was. I agree. Phil, what was a big sports story death, sports related death in the news in recent days? I think there's nobody close to this guy. What was a huge event? We're going back over half a century here. I'm almost maybe giving it away.
How long ago did he? How many days ago did he die?
We're talking 1954 when this event happened.
Oh, Roger Bannister.
Roger Bannister.
Oh yeah,
that.
broke the 4-minute mile.
Yeah, I mean, talk about a huge event.
Yeah, oh yeah, I did see that. Yeah,
First
I wouldn't have mentioned that, but now that you bring it up, you're right. That was a big deal back then for sure.
Okay, Len, we got to run. Get
Oh,
some
one
other
last
folks on.
question. Just want to poll the panel, then I'll go.
Yeah.
Richard may not even chime in on this because he's not a Giants fan, but is there any way the Giants sign Beckham to a long-term deal before the start of the season?
No, not even remotely close.
No
I'm
Giants
with you.
fan, no,
I think
not
the guy's
happening.
got to prove himself
Absolutely.
this year. And
I will say this: he has been quoted saying he wants in excess of $20 million a year. So
he doesn't deserve it yet.
I'm going to treat this as his last season. Even if he catches 120 balls, you cannot use that money and screw up your salary cap on one player.
Especially that player.
Right.
Well, his brain, you don't know where his brain is.
No, you don't.
Okay,
No,
Leonard.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Len.
So just finishing up on golf, our good friend Tiger Woods. Do you know where he's ranked, David?
136 now.
But I love Vegas. Guess who has Tiger more likely to win the Masters? Tiger more likely than someone we've been talking about for the last few minutes. Tiger's ahead of Phil Mickelson.
Oh, that's not even.
How insane is that?
Tiger is ranked 388 on
Is that right?
Well,
388?
he's moved all the way up though to 136 on the FedEx Cup
Okay.
Oh, really?
because he was like 0.
So Duke, again, Tiger obviously watches the Best Damn Sports Show in Franklin County.
Obviously.
Because he's listening to me. He's playing this
He
weekend.
did listen to you.
in
He's
a
playing?
Valspar,
They're
I
back
guess.
in-
And he's going to play the following week in Arnold Palmer's tournament.
Wow, so
in
2 straight weeks.
Palm Harbor. I'm assuming that's.
Back in
I
Florida.
think it's over in Naples, isn't it?
Is that where that is?
In the West
I think
Coast?
it's on that side,
Not
yeah.
sure. But back in Florida.
So
Is that the Bear Paw? Is this the Bear Paw?
Yeah.
There's some good. There's some good late holes.
you remember every golf course.
Well, I mean, I
cannot
see
believe your
in
memory.
part because I see it. Here's one other golf note. This means nothing to me. Defending Masters champ Sergio Garcia committed to play in the PGA Zurich Classic of New Orleans team event from April 26 to 29. They'll partner with Rafa Cabrera Bello. Tournament Chief Steve Worthy said the field also will include two-time Masters champ Bubba Watson. His teammate will be Matt Kuchar. Sorry, team? Does this mean anything?
Yeah,
to you?
it's like a member guest.
Is this like a new
Last
thing?
year, yeah.
Did they do that last year there, too?
Yeah.
Oh, really? That comes, that's 2 weeks after my
And you know what else I watched? I watched the women's golf, and that was on Saturday night. And the tournament started.
Nighthawk's old friend Michelle won, right?
Michelle Wee.
How old is she now?
Someone
30.
Nighthawk has made a history of beating up on these
listen,
airwaves.
for you to sit there and tell me she's had a successful career.
It's her 14th
she's
win.
probably,
She has now won 14 times.
She has.
I need documentation.
and not to mention,
But this is
forget
the
what
first
she's-
win she's had since
In a while.
2014.
But Hawk, even
did win a major,
even-
right?
But
US
she won
Open.
one major. But even endorsements and stuff, didn't she get millions just early on?
Nike.
on.
I think she's
Nike
probably
signed
living.
her to
she's
be the
probably
female
living pretty
Tiger
well.
Woods.
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, compared to the early hype, she hasn't exactly panned out. She's
She still looks
Golfer.
good. She's really all
Long
there.
length.
Hey, we mentioned Tom Brennan. This is the great Bob Ryan in the Globe on Sunday. He got into, it might be worth a little time, the headline, college sports completely out of whack. And he loves college basketball. Just quickly, sometimes I feel as if I should be in some sort of a 12-step program. That's because I remain a fan of college sports, especially college basketball. The entire enterprise has become more and more difficult to defend as the years have gone by. And these latest revelations about payments and cheating of all kinds are disturbing. I may need a bag to place over my head before leaving the house. But I'm mentioning this, he gets into Tom Brennan. Has great words for Coach Brennan. And again, he just gets into the allegations and how he's so discouraged. I ran some of this by Tom Brennan, who grew up in Phillipsburg, New Jersey, near where Ryan grew up. I think he grew up in Trenton. and has had a full college basketball experience as a player, Georgia, coach, 7 schools, most notably Vermont, from 1986 to 2005, commentator, and to this day fan. It's hard to imagine anyone in the college community more fair-minded, reasonable, or well-liked. When he retired in 2005, the farewell party at the NCAA tourney featured a who's who of college basketball. And quoting Brendan quickly, "I'm embarrassed," Brendan admitted. "It's been my whole life. I've made a living doing this. It's doing the drip, drip, drip thing as far as the FBI is concerned. We're all waiting for the other shoe to drop."
Absolutely.
And Ryan also, this is what he said. Remember we talked about the UNC, the big-time basketball scandal,
Yeah.
and they get off scot-free because the NCAA said, "Oh, but they didn't
break
violate
any of our rules."
Any of our rules." This is, and Ryan doesn't name. This is what he says about UNC. "Before we even address the latest batch of bad news, we must start with the sad admission that the defending NCAA men's basketball champion has gotten away with an absolutely ludicrous mocking of all academic integrity and has been allowed to keep multiple championships while there was a colossal fraud being perpetrated." Of course, my school, and he even throws in, and Coach K doesn't come out of this totally unscathed. Last thing I'll say, if I can find Coach K here. No, he was talking about the agents and the latest thing. God, am I not seeing that in there? No, I guess I'll stop there.
I will tell
anyway,
you.
but good words for Coach Brennan.
Last night on Boston Sports Tonight, which is a great show on NBC.
NBC
Sport.
40, whatever.
Yeah, on channel 779.
Yeah.
Guess what Dan Shaughnessy was talking about last night? I bet you'll guess. It's got to do with college basketball.
Just the one. Well, I mean,
The one and
the thing
done?
is, you're asking me about it. One and done.
Connecticut. Because
The UConn women.
Right. How Connecticut is destroyed.
And does
Women's basketball.
anybody ask him what should Gino just retire and go away?
No.
Is that what he wants?
They didn't ask John Wooden to retire.
I get these other schools to play better.
Now,
I give a ton of credit to Gino. Gino's unreal.
right. And he said last night he's not blaming Gino of the Connecticut program.
could he- I
However,
would hope
the
not.
fact remains. Now, they played a game the other night
No, they're
where,
unreal.
and it was a big-sized school. They scored
They're unreal.
13 points in the first half, and UConn beat them like 85-25.
Oh, God.
Something of that nature. Now, let me tell you the bad news on the TV show Boston Sports Tonight. Casey Smith,
I like her, don't you? I think she's very soft.
I'm telling you right now,
She knows her stuff, isn't she good?
the best
Is she gone? Is she gone?
ever, okay?
Is she gone?
It doesn't hurt that she's an attractive lady.
Yeah,
However,
she's good.
smartest
She's good.
Woman.
gal or woman I've ever seen in my entire
very
life.
attractive
Just
young lady
good,
who's very
great
smart.
sense of humor, just
What are
complete
you?
package.
You're freak. What's going on?
Well, I think I left
Somebody just like
papers.
ESPN grabbed her
Oh,
or
actually, did I write it down here? I did.
something? No, she's very good.
She caught my microphone.
Hawk, you need some help over there, my boy?
Okay, here we go. I didn't know she was leaving, so I'm watching the show Friday
I
night
didn't
at the end of
know
the
that.
show.
Wow.
So she's on TV, and I don't know why, but she's going to Barstool Sports that has a station on Sirius XM.
Really?
So she'll be doing radio.
So that's a step up, presumably.
Well, she'll be
huh?
working in New York City.
Oh, really?
But
Oh, she'll be back on TV, or is that? I mean,
that's no Sirius XM.
This is TV.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
No, she's very.
Oh,
very good. I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
Good for her. Hey, good for
I
her.
was reading this thing on ESPN about John Butchergrass and that black girl who was.
Hawk's friend Michelle, Ms. Hill.
No.
No.
She was
Jamel Hill, I bet you're talking
Jamel Hill.
about.
no.
No, that's who I was.
This
trying to
girl
think of.
never. She's
I read
suing.
a Jamel Hill story about her and Chris Berman got into it, but go ahead.
Well, this girl was one. They hired 100, and they fired 99. And she was one of the ones that they let go. And she's saying that John Butchergrass was harassing her. I guess ESPN was a cauldron of
yes.
sexual harassment.
That was the
That's-
line.
yeah.
What
And-
about? Oh, I'm sorry. You still.
And what I was going to add to that is, what do you think you're going to get with all these male egos?
Jocks.
But that's not to say. But you're not.
Not to
telling
say
me
that you have to accept it.
You should get it.
But if you are a female and you are hanging around with all of these men and you want to be treated like an equal, that you're going to have
Well,
to.
hopefully,
suck
you don't
it
have
up.
to agree to sleep with these guys.
No, but they.
Yeah.
If locker room talk bothers you, if
But was that the beef, or was it sexual?
oh he said Butchergrass said that he did nothing.
He's still on the air.
And he's still on the air. He said he did nothing, but she might be one of these crusading types that's looking for something. Or
Part of the Me Too
Yeah.
generation.
What was the Jamel Hill and Boomer thing?
I don't know.
Sexual harassment?
No, it wasn't so much that. But I think he was more disturbed of course, he was one of the builders of ESPN.
Sure, he was one of the
And,
founding
of course,
fathers, kind of.
ESPN's crumbling right now. We're talking viewership, and we're talking, more importantly,
You don't think that's not
how
a
many
little?
subscribers they have. That has gone down.
Oh, they.
I don't think
we
that's
were,
a little overstated. You think crumbling's a fair word? That's a pretty harsh word.
I would say in the last 10 years, their viewership's down 20%.
Pretty-
And like I always say, talk to any business. Can you sustain a 20%
that's a
loss?
hit.
well, I think I told
I
you though what they
I
did.
watch it very little because it's
I
a horrible.
watch basketball. I
it's a
never, I
horrible
almost
network.
never,
They
ever
just
watch
bought
SportsCenter.
up though all of these local sports,
Yeah.
big
Oh, on Fox, the
Fox
Fox
Sports
station.
Nation.
But they've been doing
Not
more.
to mention Disney's the parent, right?
Yeah, Disney's.
But
I'm not
ESPN
sure they're not going
has
away.
done more layoffs than Milan
Yeah, they've had a
has.
lot.
I
Yeah.
mean, with a lot of big, like Trent Dilfer, I liked a lot as a football, and the doctor John Clayton.
okay, yeah.
They let him go.
Right.
And they just
Well, they. I think they're having a hard time finding their way because they had it for about 20 years,
Oh yeah.
and
egotistical.
college basketball. I mean, you know,
They
they were.
and
when they
ESPN
started showing a million games, thank you, like
But-
every Duke game for the last
Right.
30 years.
they've overdone it now.
oversaturation.
And I think the whole thing. But hey, what do I know?
David, I think part of is the new culture. Young people don't follow sports like
Organized
we did,
sports for sure.
as we did as kids.
And the big thing is that they've got every sport now so commercialized. And when UVM basketball, when they have to have a timeout every 5 minutes, they can't even wait until 10 minutes. It's all because of the pressure that's on these revenue-producing sports to pay for the non-revenue producing sports.
But I said a million times here, like the UVM game, 11 o'clock Saturday morning, the Nighthawk will be DVRing that, so I don't have to get upset the way you do because I will fast forward through all those.
Well, even
timeouts.
when you're there at the game, it takes away from the game. It takes away from the flow.
It does.
It's just like you want to watch something good. The Olympics, their hockey, they had no TV commercials. There were no, like when you go watch a regular game, they have 3 commercials a period. In the Olympics, if they didn't have a stop it, they didn't have it.
Speaking of which, a quick Olympics note headline: Finding host city for 26 not easy. I'm telling you, nobody. They're going to
Who
run
wants
out of. Right, of course, the great winter city of Beijing, China, is a host in 2022, I guess, right? So
Well,
nobody.
don't you
A
remember about
bunch
a
of
year
cities
ago?
dropping out.
The mayor of Boston, who is
Marty Walsh.
Okay.
Funny, I'm about to
That
mention
was the
him.
dumbest
They-
idea.
Yeah, that was
they
insane.
handed the Olympics to Boston, and they
Boston wisely.
said, "No, thank you."
That was
Hey.
probably one of the rare issues where Howie Carr and Dan Shaughnessy, whose politics I'd say are pretty far apart, both agreed this was insane.
Boston
They're talking
is no place for the
They're talking about
Olympics.
building like a big temporary stadium and then taking
Listen,
it down again.
I remember going to Fenway with you. We would go from St. Albans to the outskirts of Boston. I'd say, "Hey, Duke, I cannot believe how fast it took to get to Boston. It would take just as long to hit the city."
The last
entrance."
5 miles take 2 hours.
Oh, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's
Boston is one of the top 3 worst cities in the country to drive. I put Washington, D.C. right up there. As
See,
another
now I'm-
bad
Not a
city
fun
to
place.
drive.
I'm gonna tell you something.
Montreal's no, of course you're up there. Montreal, that
I
sounds
think
like the big issue for Montreal.
Boston, I don't think is that bad anymore compared to these other places, they're getting worse and worse and worse. Washington, D.C. is absolutely awful. I heard Atlanta. I've never driven in Atlanta.
Atlanta's a nightmare. When I go south, I purposely go down to Delmarva. I don't want to go near D.C.
Hey, and don't even talk to me about Southern California.
Yeah. Right. No, Atlanta's a nightmare.
No.
Speaking of Marty Walsh, did you pick up this thing about Red Auerbach a few weeks ago? The Boston Police Department tweeted out a Black History Month high five to former Celtic exec Red Auerbach. Hawk, did you catch this? Mayor Marty Walsh, the Boston mayor, responded, wasn't happy, quoting yesterday, a while ago, tweet from the Boston Police Department was completely inappropriate and a gross misrepresentation of how we are honoring Black History Month in Boston. This is a column by Michael Graham, conservative, but it's good. Some good points. His next graph, inappropriate. Red was the first NBA coach to draft a black player and field an all-black starting five. Later, as team president, he hired Bill Russell to be the first ever black head coach in the NBA. How is remembering him inappropriate during Black History Month? That sounds like a pretty reasonable,
Bill
rejoinder.
Russell had issues with the city of Boston, the racism.
Absolutely. He loved
Red Auerbach like a father.
Yeah, absolutely. And that doesn't sound so
well,
crazy
I'll tell
to
you
me.
what. I just watched last night. Remember those 30 for 30s they had on the Lakers and the Celtics?
Funny, I watched the NC State one again this afternoon, which is about the best one I've ever seen. I've watched it 6 times. I can't see it enough.
Yeah. And they were, of course, they made a big thing out of this whole black-white thing. How the Celtics had a bunch of white guys. Well, who wouldn't want Larry Bird? Who wouldn't want McHale? Who wouldn't want
Danny Ainge?
Those guys were good.
Yep.
And if they're picking on a guy for having a white team, all of the things that you just mentioned about Red Auerbach, and all these other black players, Sam Jones, K.C. Jones, Sat Sanders, there was a million guys. Red, they think that maybe Red got the white guys because nobody else thought white guys were any good anymore, and that's why he went fishing there.
Yeah. And he did great, like Don Nelson, great, his sixth guy.
Tommy Heinsohn.
Way before him, Frank Ramsey, the great sixth man. Yeah, not to mention Tommy Kuzi.
Auerbach was not a racist.
You're right. What you said says it all. If Bill Russell has pretty good feelings about the white guy, you better believe this white guy's a pretty good guy.
I have never heard one bad word ever about Red Auerbach. Now, the interesting thing,
and I'm sure you can be sure he got a lot of grief in Boston. You can be sure he probably got death threats for fielding an all-black
Well, I bet you that's why the Celtics...
Imagine the grief he got about that.
Yeah. The Celtics weren't ever a big draw. Yeah. When the Celtics were in their heyday, they didn't even sell out.
They didn't sell out. They about half attendance until playoffs.
Just got so used to winning that it was boring. You're absolutely right.
I bet their average attendance was like 6,000 to 8,000 for regular season games.
And another interesting thing, we were talking before we got on the air about how many coaches and assistants and trainers and everything at UVM. When Red Auerbach was coaching the Celtics, he was not only the general manager, he didn't have an assistant coach. It was just him.
Yep, absolutely.
They didn't have enough money for assistant coaches.
He might have been booking the trains or whatever.
Sure, he was.
Getting Chinese food for everybody.
I know.
Now, the great Bill Russell, when he came in the league out of San Francisco Dons.
Yeah, very good.
I did not know this till about a month or two ago. He was not Rookie of the Year.
Oh, is that right?
Do you know who the Rookie of the Year was that year?
Like Clyde Lovelett or somebody, Easy Ed McCollum?
Out of Holy Cross?
Bill Cousy?
Oh, Bob
Cousy?
Tommy Heinsohn.
Oh, Tommy Heinsohn.
Tommy Heinsohn beat Bill Russell out as Rookie of the Year.
Both Celtics.
Oh, speaking of Tommy, I don't know.
You mentioned that last week even.
I haven't even seen him.
You haven't seen him at all?
Home games or even the studio.
Not even after the games?
He's got. You don't have your tweet machine.
No, I don't.
Because I've got to think Tommy's in his 80s now.
I think that's fair to say. Safe to say.
With the flu being so bad, I'm concerned about Tommy.
Yeah, he's got to be. He's probably got to be at least low 80s.
I love Tommy.
I know you love Tommy.
David, just a sidebar too about going to games live. What I hate is the simpleton mentality these arenas have. During timeouts, they have to blast the music.
Yes.
Now, I'm the type of guy, I will keep my mouth shut during the game. Once the whistle blows, I will start talking to you, David, like, where in the heck's the forechecking and this, that, and the other. I hate the music blasting. They treat everybody like idiots.
Well, it's because the average
Entertainment, right?
the
Your
average
average fan has
12-year-old
to be
today has an
enter-
attention span
Listen,
of a
right.
gnat.
It has to
Listen.
be entertained every second, right?
David, I enjoy scantily clad women as much as the next guy. However, I remember being at the Celtic game with you.
Oh,
I mean, they barely have
dancers,
everything
right.
on. I'm there to watch basketball. It's just, you know what I'm saying? But like you said, it's part of the entertainment
Well, the
package.
UVM, they got the cheer team, they got the dance
Of
team.
course, the hockey has a
Stony
skater.
Brook.
I thought the skaters do a pretty
They-
decent job.
Yeah, yeah.
They're,
It's just a whole different.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
They don't focus enough on the product that they're putting
That's
on.
exactly what I'm trying to say. Is the game is the game. That's what we're there
The
for.
game ought to be enough. The game was enough for many years, but now it's not. Hey, it's
guess
like when
it's
you go
not
to a
now.
Montreal Canadian game.
Oh, the Bell Center. You go deaf. You can't hear. It is so loud in
that
there.
right?
Oh, it's crazy.
I mean, just with just
Oh,
with
the music.
Really?
In the UVM basketball game, they played the rap music or whatever. Whatever
were
this
they
called.
doing that typically? I mean, were they playing music whenever there wasn't basketball?
It wasn't too bad. I didn't think it was too bad. It wasn't as bad. But, you know, like the announcer can't say, Dave Handy, 4 points or 3-point shot. It's always, she's got to roll.
No. David Handy for three.
He's a guy.
Yeah,
I don't need that.
yeah, yeah.
But-
I saw Dave Handy get the triple.
Elizabeth got a good expression out of it.
Okay.
That was
Yeah.
good, Hawk.
Yeah.
That was
But-
impressive.
Yeah, but I remember Eddie Benton. I don't know if you remember.
Sure.
him.
do remember.
Oh, yeah, Eddie
He
was
won the
great.
James Naismith Award for being the best college basketball player under 6 feet,
Right.
all-time
Really?
leading basketball.
Yeah, he was
but it
great.
always was Eddie Benton for three.
Yeah, it's too
You know,
much.
it's just, come on, just let me watch the game. And when the whistle blows, let me talk to Duke. I might have a question he can explain to me. But,
See, I think that when you go to the D3 games, they don't have too much of that.
David, speaking D3, I
And
mentioned I was in
Hawk does that
Northfield.
all the time.
Do you know how many people they had in Northfield Saturday night for that
Good.
game?
Well, the
I mean,
rink
full-
only holds about 2,000, doesn't it?
It's probably 17, 18. They have standing room because they actually have a walk around.
So you
They had
were
22
afraid.
They had 2,200
Well,
people.
you ended up getting a seat, right?
Yes.
Initially, you were told you might have to do standing room,
And
you
I said,
"Get
no,
me a
thank
seat."
you. Right. And my buddy
Is
was
that
able
right?
to
So
get a seat.
SRO crowd,
Yeah.
huh?
And do you know,
Wow.
David, what I do as an old Chuburic man?
Sorry, Jabiric?
Meaning it's a word for being a little chubby? Is that not the proper word?
Jabiric, if that's
Boy,
you're the smart guy here.
I'm not that smart.
I'll have to
I've
go to
never
my
heard that word
dictionary.
before.
Okay.
Jabiric, huh?
Okay, so
I won't ask you to
So
spell
do you know
it.
what I do? Unlike UVM that has their walk around in front of the glass that no other hockey arena in the free world has. So I get up out of my seat. I do the nice walk around stretch. And that's what I'm waiting for at the new
This is between periods.
between periods. Yeah, and they have like vending areas or where I can
So
get
now-
a cup of coffee
this is
for $1.
Kreitzberg?
Kreitzberg does it right. And if David Handy says, I've got to go to the bathroom, excuse me, I don't stand up. He walks right by.
Yeah.
You know, see you, David.
So Hawk, talk about the game. So this is a
Well,
cadet.
plus their chairs, they're not.
Oh, individual seats,
Wow.
leg room.
Really?
Freaking
so
awesome.
this is a cadets and
Hobart, as I
I'm
mentioned
sorry,
earlier.
Hobart.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, the score one who
3-0 Hobart.
no, is that right?
Yeah.
Looked like definitely the better team.
Slightly better.
Oh, really?
We had a bad turnover. That kid was out.
Wow,
muscles for the puck.
3-0, huh?
But Norwich graduated literally half their team from their national championship from
And they were
last year.
national champs
Yeah,
last year.
Yeah. But you know, I know you've been to Kreitzberg.
I'd love,
David,
yeah,
right?
I'd love to go
a lot.
sometime.
Yeah, I've got to
that
take
right?
down the
You
game.
know it well?
Of course.
Well, Emmy used to have the girls' state championships were
wow.
all in.
and
Pittsburgh.
you've been to Middlebury.
My brother in Norwich
Chip
graduated.
Kenyon
yeah.
Arena. Have you been to the Middlebury game to watch hockey?
I think I might have walked in there, but no, I've never
That's a
seen a game
fancy
there.
rink.
That's
Really nice.
And again, The Middlebury trustees, I don't know much about them. I don't know any of them.
Oh, yeah, no,
However, I can
Middlebury's
guarantee you one
obviously a
thing.
Washington
They never
money.
put their head on the pillow at night and worry about money down there. I've
I
got
tell
to
you,
take it down.
Duke, of course,
to
a
see
way
their
bigger
field house.
school, and not that I'm there much, but I mean, just the new construction, the money that those guys have. to play
Well,
with.
the thing with the Chip Kenyon gave the money, but he said, you got to let everybody go to the games for
Oh,
free.
right. So is that right? It's a free play.
As a matter of fact,
Wow.
those games are for free.
Wow.
Now, listen,
that's great.
something rather queer was I paid $6 to get in to the Norwich playoff games.
That's
because,
$6?
Right. They're controlled by the NCAA. That's kind of
Really?
like a normal price for
Oh, yeah?
Division III.
Really?
However,
Is that right?
Norwich,
$6?
on their own whim, during the regular season, they charge $11
Really?
a ticket.
Is that right? The playoff was just half as much about?
$6. I'm
Really?
sitting there. You know, I can go down to
Why
Burlington.
would the NCAA be able to they can control
They control
playoff
the
prices,
playoffs.
huh?
Right, they do.
Really
Yeah.
interesting.
So, okay.
No, that does sound like a great and really nice arena.
Yeah. So I've got to take you down. No, David, so we've got 14 and a half minutes left.
Well,
So,
where'd the time go?
talk to me. Like I said earlier, talking to Leonard, I'm literally on the computer when I turn it on every day saying, I know, today's the day these guys are going to sign. And
So, Huck, how many are still out there? Talking 3 digits here?
I would say close to 100.
Really?
Well, they every once in a while you see these lesser grade guys are getting signed all the
Adam
time.
Lind signed
Signed
with
with
the
the
Yankees.
Yankees.
Now listen to this. Adam Lind might have been my favorite national last year. Okay, we signed him to a 1-year contract with a team option for $5 million. Nats didn't want to pay him. He was a part-time player, got about 275 at-bats, hit 14 home runs, 50 some odd RBIs. This guy was terrific, really nice guy, easy to root for.
The Yankees got to deal with him. If he's not on the roster on opening day, he's a free agent.
Yeah, and
Oh, yeah.
so yeah.
What I mean, last year, how many free agents were unsigned at this time last year?
That
would
I
you
cannot-
guess. I mean, some, but I mean,
Yeah.
presumably not many.
Not as many as there is now.
Yeah,
Boy, about
Ichiro
100?
just signed with Seattle.
yeah.
Boy, the Red Sox. There's a story I think in the Globe today. The money they're spending, they're up to about 237
Yeah,
mil or
they've got a
something.
bad.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, they
It's a
This
bit
is
of-
it.
it's a
They're
bit
in it. They're in
embarrassing
it
to
this
me.
year.
they may be outspending the
Wow.
Dodgers this year.
I think
The
I think this
Dodgers are going to
story-
be under the salary cap
No,
this
this
year.
story had them Red Sox easily. Bloated payroll
Yeah.
may be more costly for Sox.
and I'm a rules and regulation kind of guy. I don't like it when teams go over the cap.
No, it bothered. That's why JD Martinez, great guy to have in the team. I said, I hope they don't sign him in part just because of the money thing. It's a little embarrassing to me.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But you came up with a good answer last week, Duke, when we were talking about why they signed Martinez, and you said the basic answer of, things have a funny way to work themselves out,
Yeah.
meaning injuries do occur and all that. But
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a good guy. It just sounds like they're going to need to play him in the outfield once in a while.
the downside for us three guys is all three of our teams, Washington, Boston, and New York, we're all pretty much penciled in October to make the playoffs. Spring training really doesn't hold much interest.
Boy, I paid about zero.
Yeah, I've paid very little.
Well,
Zero. So you've been paying any attention to spring training?
some.
The big
some.
story out of Yankee Land, I guess, is what they got the geese out of there. I just read that.
Oh, I didn't
today.
read about that.
The geese are gone.
Well, I read an article today on our new third baseman that they got from Arizona. And they say he's really a ball player. This guy is going to be.
Give me a name.
Not Chasen Shreve. Who they just traded for
Yeah,
him.
and I can't remember his
Yeah.
And
name.
it's not Machado. And Machado had like 4 home runs the first 2 weeks.
Really?
For Baltimore?
No, our Machado.
Oh, okay.
The Yankees rookie, but they
there's some
said
kid-
his fielding wasn't good.
I read, and I don't remember his name, something like Billy McKinney on the Yankees. It's got 4 home runs and like 11 RBIs, and that may not be his name.
It was Machado.
I don't know if it was Machado.
Or
I don't know.
he had 4 runs. They had another guy, this center fielder, who I guess has been playing crazy. They are loaded. They've got so many good young players right now.
So the Yankees, I saw somewhere, are playing the Red Sox around April 11th. And I don't even know what it was, win tickets to Fenway Park, see the Yankees and Red Sox. And I go to myself,
April 11th, that should be a nice 33-degree day.
I would take those tickets if you put me on the, over the dugout.
And especially if there's a nice breeze off the ocean with that misty rain that they get. Oh, it'll be awful.
I grew up in that stuff. That's insane.
The reason
shouldn't have those guys playing before May.
Is the reason to start the season a week early is just to give more days off?
I think so,
Yes.
right? Because postseason, I don't think changes at all.
Yeah.
I think Game 7 of the World Series is still right around November 1, I think. Some more days off.
Yeah. So one tidbit I do want to share. Good news for Missisquoi Valley Union. They've got a new
the football appropriation went down. Track and
I
field.
did see
Track and field. We talked to the super last night on the show.
Win Goodrich.
Yeah, and I guessed right. I said, let me guess. The football appropriation didn't fare well. He said, I think that's what I asked
They
him. He
only
said,
asked
if you're
for
right.
10,000.
But I said, but track and field did, and track and field passed easily.
And the funny thing is, from what I heard, MVU pays
The MVU budget passed
$60,000
easily.
plus a year, if I heard correctly, for ice rental at the Highgate Arena, but they can't get
60,000.
Sure,
Well, it costs,
adds up.
it's $100 and something bucks an hour.
Yeah. So they have a new head football coach,
Oh, really?
and David's going to know.
Chad Coffey.
Chad Coffey, son of Rob,
that right?
Rob
Yeah. Oh,
Coffey.
Rob's kid?
So Chad's about 31 years old, and I have a client who's going to played for BFA, played offensive line and linebacker. He's going to be an assistant coach. And I said, listen, I don't want to make you feel good or prop you up, but you may be the most important coach there if you're going to coach the offensive line, because they need some technique help. But
Where did their coach they had go?
from what I heard, they kind of
All right,
let him
mutual.
go. I don't know officially, but Chad is good. Now, did I hear Rob's had some medical issues with his heart?
Yeah, but that wasn't news. That was
Because he's
like
not coaching with the
No.
Steeler program
Is that
anymore.
right?
a couple years ago. Had
I played Major League Baseball with Rob
Robbie's a great guy.
on the
Like
Braves.
Robbie. Yeah.
That the uniforms were about that thick, old heavy wool back in 1966. Oh, those uniforms must have weighed 12 pounds. So
Just if it was store, it's just a logistic thing for me. I've got a paper store that's so close to my house on the north side of town. If he was there, I'd be seeing him every day and stuff. But I got a out-of-town paper store right next to me, just about.
No.
Sorry, Rob. No offense, buddy.
Well, Rob's
They don't
been
give you
out of the
some
store
business.
for a while.
Oh, he's out of there?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
No, Robbie's a really good guy.
Yeah.
I want to talk some NHL. The way it appears, Duke, is you're going to
Would
be
the
playing
Bruins have to deal with Toronto at
Toronto
this
the
point?
first round.
That's not an easy. That doesn't sound like an easy.
That'll be a rough go.
The Bruins have 90 points. Tampa Bay have 96. Bruins do have 3 games at hand. However, as good
Charlie
as,
McAvoy. That was a significant injury.
as good as the Bruins are, and they're really good this year,
Yeah.
I think Tampa is. They have
Tampa picked up McDonough, didn't they?
Ryan McDonough hasn't started
Wow.
to play yet with them, but their goaltender, who's a Russian,
Who's
and
their-
I can't
Oh,
remember
is
his
that right?
name,
But
but
good,
he'll
very
probably
good.
win the Vezina Trophy.
So Tampa's a very good team.
But,
the Bruins, going into the season, I figured, as per usual, marginal playoff team. But they've had
That's
a pretty
what
good
I
year.
thought too. Was I gave them 50-50 chance
Yeah.
to make the playoffs.
A little
but-
more than your Habs.
I would have bet you October 1st that I would have had more points than you.
Is that right?
Oh,
Really?
absolutely.
Wow.
Well, did you watch the outdoor game with the? It was in Annapolis, Saturday night, I think.
I didn't know there was an outdoor.
There was
NHL
an outdoor
game.
game in Annapolis, and it was the Caps, and who were they playing? Toronto.
Oh yeah.
Toronto had all white uniforms, not only white shirts, white pants.
Okay.
Really?
And it was supposedly to commemorate Canadian sailors.
Okay.
And because they played it on the campus of Annapolis, at the Annapolis football stadium, and they set the field up to make it look like it was on an aircraft carrier.
Oh, cool.
Really?
It was really cool. It was a good game. Ovechkin got 2-3 goals. I think it's.
Of course, they're playing in Annapolis, U.S. Naval Academy.
I think Ovechkin. This is like the 10th or 14th straight year he's got 40 goals.
This
or
guy
something.
in a league that stars for goals.
Yeah.
He's a goal
Unreal,
scorer.
This guy's incredible. But the thing about the Bruins, and again, as great as they've played, when you get into the playoffs, even though the Bruins may have 8 more points,
Boy,
when you're
Toronto,
playing
that sounds like a tough
Pittsburgh
series.
and Washington, I mean, I
And
would flat money.
Washington, of course, is a team they can't beat. They haven't beat Washington in about
There's-
3
right.
years.
Yeah.
Yeah, but when the playoffs come, Washington has a
Bruins, but that's
Oh.
their hex team. The Bruins cannot deal with, for whatever reason, they can't beat
Just
Washington.
to show you how weird sports, NHL last year, and I was sitting probably right around the state last year. I said, don't even play the playoffs. The Chicago Blackhawks are
They'll win.
so far
Yeah.
above everybody else. There's no point to even play
First
the playoffs.
round.
Yeah,
They get
you never
knocked off
know.
first round.
Wow.
So what are they doing this year? They won't even make the playoffs
Wow.
this year. So, and for the Canadians, Max Pacioretty's out for the year. Of course, Shea Weber hasn't played for 2 months. He's out for the year.
Wow.
They have a lot of rebuilding to do, and I can't sit here and say, just wait till next season.
Well, they've got nobody in the minor leagues either, from what I understand.
No, Laval Rocket, their AHL team that has very little talent down there, and Carey Price basically was horrible this year, and
All right.
he's been out with a concussion. So, and we talk about this all the time. NHL playoffs, more than any sport, hockey may not be our favorite sport. However, the NHL playoffs are far and above the best playoffs to watch.
And the first round is without a doubt the most exciting,
Yeah.
energetic. I find as each time goes by, the guys got a little less gas in their tank.
Yep.
Well, mostly because they're playing with fewer broken bones. By the time they get down to you find out the guys. Well, did you watch that 30 for 30? And I never realized that Kevin McHale played that whole your 87 season with a broken foot. It was bad.
Huh.
And, they, because the Lakers and the Celtics got older a little quicker than the Lakers did.
They got old.
Yeah, they
altogether
hung the
real
big
quick.
three.
Lenny Bias would have been a great,
Well, yeah,
What a-
Lenny Bias
what a painful
OD'd on cocaine
the day after he got drafted.
the day after the draft.
And you go with also
his mother
Reggie.
said, and I quote, "Oh, that was the first time my boy Lenny ever tried this." Right. And of course, Reggie Lewis out of Northeastern,
he had heart.
he had a heart attack, and he was a really good
But then,
player.
of course, kept playing. It was a huge lawsuit with some of your top doctors
Yeah.
saying he's okay, other folks saying this is insane. Of course, he eventually
he died during the
kills
summer
himself.
in the gym playing.
Yeah. Oh, his widow.
a
That was
pickup game.
just a
It's a
long,
sad,
nasty.
sad thing.
Yeah,
Now,
wicked
David,
sad.
I know you're pretty good about catching shows. Last night on Comcast or NBC Sports, there was a show about Steve Belichick. I don't know if it was an older show or a repeat.
I didn't
That's
see
but I
Bill's
recorded it.
father,
It was
longtime
right.
coach at Navy.
Bill Belichick, it was just a half-hour show, talked about his father, and he spent 30-some-odd years
At Navy.
with Navy, and sat in the same chair every morning, reading the newspaper and drinking coffee. Was he a head coach at Navy?
No, I don't
think
Just
he
an
was.
assistant.
I think he was just an
assistant. Loved the Navy.
Yeah.
And when he died back in 2005, Bill called the Navy and said, "Is there any chance my dad could be buried at the Naval
Oh, really?
Cemetery?" And if you're in the Navy, David, you don't qualify. You have to be something kind of great in
Right.
order. It took him 24 hours to get back to Bill to say, absolutely, your dad can be
really?
buried in the cemetery. And not only that,
Huh.
when your mother passes, she's
Really?
going to be buried right next to your father.
That must have meant
Yeah.
the world to
Yeah.
Coach Bill.
And,
Wow.
to see Bill talk
He can-
like a normal person.
Get him going on stuff.
I hate to use the word articulate. He was articulate.
Oh,
Kind
no,
of
he can-
teared up a couple times.
he can- I mean,
so
it-
check that out.
Well, I've watched
very good.
the 30 for 30, the two Bills.
Yes.
I've watched it 4 times now.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
looked like a kind of a real.
And
real
did you see
person.
when he was tearing up when he was in the giant film room? And he goes, "I can't. You don't know how many nights I spent."
Yes.
I think he would love both of those guys. Just love the Giants, and they absolutely hate the
Yeah,
Giants.
there are more and more stories about just kind of, in fact, the Globe, their Sunday magazine, which I haven't read yet, has just Patriot fatigue. There's just, you see,
There's no
more
doubt in
and
my
more
mind.
stories about
if
it.
Bill could have jumped to the Giants this offseason
Really?
without any politics and Giants
You
having
think he
to give up.
would've?
He would have. There's no doubt in my
Really?
mind. And 1 minute ago,
Yeah.
a prediction for you: a new cornerback you'll have on your team in September, Aqib Talib.
Oh, yeah, it sounds like I've been hearing he wouldn't mind coming
Denver's
back.
going to cut him, and he's going to come back. He's
Yeah, I've
32
heard
years
that.
old.
Oh, yeah, he would
Keeps
play with
himself
them
in
before,
shape,
of course.
And he's still
Yeah, he had a good time with
character
them.
issue, but the guy's a
Right.
football player.
And he's played with them before.
Yeah. So, I guess that's it.
So March Madness,
March Madness.
Selection Sunday.
So don't forget
Coming up,
UVM
DST.
basketball Saturday morning, 11 o'clock on ESPN.
One quick
2.
great event, the last one, the Franklin Fire Department, their breakfast, all you can eat pancake breakfast this
Franklin?
Sunday. It's outstanding, and it's the last one they've had.
Ever?
It's gotten too popular,
Oh.
I think.
Really?
Right, that's what I
I
heard.
think about 6 to 12:30 this Sunday.
Yeah,
Great event.
So with that, I will conclude this episode of the Best Damn Sports Show in Franklin County. For Elizabeth, Super Dave, the Duke, I'm the Nighthawk. And as always, folks, remember, you do not have to be a great athlete to be a good sport. Ciao for now.